the fifth round of the 2022 Euroformula Open. We are taking to the Hungaroring, a 4.4 near enough kilometre circuit with plenty of challenging sections and a few steep braking zones as well that create overtaking opportunities and often create compelling racing. Also, of course, this season has largely been the possession of one man, and that is Oliver Goethe, who has been on the top more often than not this year, but it's not him starting from pole position this weekend, or at least not in this first race. It is Vladislav Lomko, the winner of the Pau Grand Prix, the Grand Prix de Pau earlier this year. That was his one and only win of the Euroformula campaign so far, but Vladislav Lomko will be looking to stamp his authority on this race at the Hungaroring. And of course, with overtaking sometimes being at a premium here, pole position, a great place to be. And George, one would expect that Vlad Lomko could well be on for a good result here, but of course, we've got a lot of racing to do before we get there.
We certainly do. Good afternoon, Adam, and good afternoon, everyone at home as well. We're going to be witnessing, I think, a cracker here at Hungary. And here, of course, not far from Budapest, the cars are making their way through the final corner and head towards their starting grid positions. Of course, as you alluded to, Lomko, the man himself, who has been so consistent this season. We've got to watch his career slowly blossom, certainly here in Euroformula. Of course, part of the rookie contingent, leading the rookie championship as well, with net points currently standing at 102, so 102 points to his name. And I'm sure he'll be looking to extend that as well. But he's also joined by a tenacious young Freddie Lubin as well, alongside him, who's no doubt looking to go for the big prize here today.
Freddie Lubin will be looking to return to the podium for the first time since Estoril, and with a front row starting position, he's got a great opportunity to do so. It's been a year of hard knocks for Freddie, I'd say, to this point. He's had plenty of pace, he's had some decent results, but the pace in the car, the pace in the driver often haven't matched the end result, and Freddie Lubin will be looking to make amends for some of the past discrepancies here at Estoril today. Oliver Goethe there on third position on the grid. He will be starting from third, an unfamiliar place, the second row of the grid for Goethe, but he was only third best in qualifying today. He may have been able to get himself a front row position. He had a lap deleted that was actually the exact time that gave Freddie Lubin second place. So it would have been down to beyond the thousandths as to who had got the second place had the lap stood, but track limits violations meant the time was deleted on that occasion for Oliver Goethe. There's Freddie Lubin then, shielding himself from the heat. It is a warm day here at the Hungaroring, and all of the drivers talking about just how tricky it is. And certainly it is a test for everyone involved. There is young Oliver Goethe. He's really been stepping up his training, his conditioning, along with his coaches and main driver coach Stuart Hall as well. And then there's this young man, Josh Mason, who got his first podium and then his second one for good measure last time at Spa. Expect him to be up there, as well as this man, Ayrton Simmons. We've got some very strong British drivers there in the top 5.
Yeah, Ayrton Simmons joining us here at Hungary, of course, and starting on 5th position. So a very good chance for him to perhaps make some places from the very start. How about this man, the Aussie, Christian Mansell, the man who has been known to be challenging Ollie Goethe for podiums, race wins, etc., etc. this season. And certainly I'd imagine the Crypto Tower driver would be looking to do exactly the same thing again. His form has been superb. He has, of course, netted together 2 race wins this season. Here is Francesco Simonazzi representing BVM. He starts 7th. He actually went fastest in first test, but of course has not yet transferred that into qualifying, but nevertheless 7th place. He's the 2nd position rookie in terms of that classification. Grid position 8 for Alex Garcia, the Mexican. He lines up there alongside that of Simonazzi. He'll be looking to come back stronger from Belgium. Here is Benjamin Berta as well, another one of the debutants here this season. Car number 63, of course, grid position 9. He's on the back row, but nevertheless, do not count him out as they come down towards turn 1. There's going to be certainly a flurry from behind. And here is Vladimir Netashil lining up for effective racing. The Czech in 10th place. A thumbs up there from Vlad, and a love heart as well, as he, of course, as you alluded to earlier on in qualifying, Adam, just recently he had the birth of another child. So massive congratulations to him and his family.
Yeah, Netishil loving it this weekend at the Hungaroring. Had a bit of a gearbox issue yesterday in free practice, but otherwise had a smooth weekend to this point. And funny enough, he and Benji Berta have fought for championships in the past together. Highlights, though, from Spa, and this was the beginning of race number 1. Not a start at all, unfortunately, for Freddie Lubin at the back of the order. It was Christian Mansell, though, with an absolute lightning start, who climbed up into the lead of the race in the early stages. However, he would fall to second and then fall back further still in the race. As the race continued, he'd be side by side with Josh Mason. A little bit of contact between them, but both managed to finish, and both finished on the podium. Ollie Goethe with the first of what would soon prove to be a very dominant weekend in terms of victories. Off the way for race number 2 then, and Ollie Goethe immediately sizing his way up through the order from 6th on the grid, of course, owing to the reverse grid. He managed to get himself past Christian Mansell, although they did duke it out for a few laps. Eventually, though, it was another win for Oliver Goethe, Mansell and Lomko on the podium. Race number 3, and keep an eye on Mansell there. Simonazzi kind of bogged him down a little bit as they got started. It was a poor start for Simonazzi on the second row of the on the first row of the grid, and Mansell lost places as a result. We had a huge skirmish as Oliver Goethe once again worked his way through the order, and Alex Garcia at this stage of the race was primed in podium position, although Philip Ugran and him had a collision running up the Kemmel Straight, and into the barriers went Alex Garcia. An unfortunate end to what could have been an inaugural podium for the Mexican driver, but it was a clean sweep of victories for Oliver Goethe. A dominant performance at Spa-Francorchamps has left him with a 68-point lead in the championship. Vladislav Lomko still there or thereabouts as well in 3rd place in the overall standings. The likes of Lubin and Mason will be looking to have good results this weekend too, to end the first half of the season on a positive. First race is just a few moments from getting underway then, and this is the starting grid in full. Vladislav Lomko alongside Freddie Lubin on the front row of the grid. Lubin on the inside. I'm sure he'll try and make a move. Oliver Goethe and Josh Mason on row 2 of the grid. Our front row from Estoril race 1 together again on row 2. Ayrton Simmons and Christian Mansell 5th and 6th. Francesco Simonazzi and Alex Garcia in rows 3 and 4. Benjamin Berta and Vladislav Netishil in 9th and 10th places. So then we are hopefully going to get the race underway shortly. Of course, we have had a bit of a delayed start here owing to some barrier repairs after a fairly hefty impact in the GT Open race a little earlier on today. The engines are now being fired. The last of the mechanics are straying away from their cars, so we should be off on the formation lap in just a few moments' time. There's Tom Dillman. We just saw a shot of him in the pit lane there in the motor park garages. Tom, part of what is a really hefty staff of very fast drivers at Motor Park. They have the best of the best when it comes to coaching from professional drivers to the young pros of the future. And it is Vladislav Lomko of the Crypto Tower team on pole position. Motor Park's Freddie Lubin there alongside him. Very intrigued to see here what goes on between Lomko and Lubin. They had contrasting weekends at Po, of course. Lubin had a horrible weekend at the Po Grand Prix. Vladislav Lomko ended up being the 79th winner of the Po Grand Prix. So, 2 contrasting weekends there. Let's see what happens now at the Hungaroring as they start side by side together on that front row of the grid. Keep an eye on Oliver Goethe. His days of being a poor starter are long behind him, but of course the man who has the trademark.
I was really close in pole, but slightly didn't manage to. But yeah, here I'm really happy to have this first pole. It feels really good.
And here it's not only a nice feeling, it's a big advantage at the Hungary.
Yeah. It is like the track where it's quite tough to overtake. So obviously it is really good for race one, and then for the reverse grid we see what we can do.
So that was Vladislav Lomko speaking after his pole position run earlier on today. And Lomko is starting, of course, from pole. And he'll be looking to get his second win of the season this weekend. You can see, based on that points table, that he has had strong finishes practically all season long. He is very much a podium contender each and every race, and he's got strong points on the board. If he can start converting those strong podium finishes into race wins in this second half of the season, then perhaps he may not be out of the championship hunt just yet.
Well, it all starts from here, doesn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, we could witness another sublime performance from him. But you've got to watch out for the likes of Ollie Goethe, who's still very, very threatening, even from his P6 position. He came back from P6 at Estoril in race 3, came back to 4th place. And not to mention, he's done it before in Paul Ricard. Started 6th in race 2 and finished in 2nd as well. Spa, very nearly the same. Race 2, he would go on to win after starting in 6th as well, with the 6th place start in race 3, where he would also go on to win in a clean sweep of victories, first in all 3 races.
So then we are on race 12 of the season. We're not yet halfway there. So still a long way to go. Oliver Goethe has dominated so far, but plenty of season left for drivers like Vladislav Lomko to start racking up wins and establishing themselves in the title hunt. Vladislav Lomko has given himself the best opportunity possible to try and take a win today. He's on pole position. Freddie Lubin is alongside him in that number 78 car. Keep an eye on Freddie. He's going to want to try and attack from the get-go here, as the lights will go out very shortly at the Hungaroring. Keep an eye on Goethe on row 2 as well. Mansell on row 3. He's always got a quick start in the offing. What about Ayrton Simmons from the 3rd row of the grid? Josh Mason on the 2nd row too. So many fast drivers up there. We're underway, and it's racing at the Hungaroring, as it's a great start from Lomko to be in the lead as they get underway. He has to go defensive though. Lubin and Goethe both on the attack. Goethe up the inside of Lubin. Can Lubin go all the way around the outside? He can. He's on the runoff area, but he's held on to 2nd place. He's trying for the lead. He's up the inside of Vladislav Lomko, but Freddie Lubin can't quite get it done. Still side by side between Goethe and Lubin, and Goethe with the inside into turn 3 sweeps in to 2nd place. Great driving from him. Lubin still there though. Lomko it is that leads the way, and look at that, Christian Mansell already up to 4th.
Yeah, incredible start. Certainly Vladislav Lomko getting the start he would have wanted and needed to try and keep himself in first. Frederick Lubin, unfortunately, despite what looked to be a great run out of turn 1, was eventually swallowed up. He went for the move heading in towards turn 2. Unfortunately, the door was shut by Vladislav Lomko, serving him up on a plate for Ollie Goethe, who then snatches 2nd place. Christian Mansell up into 4th, as you alluded to. The Aussie certainly powering onwards and upwards, ahead of Josh Mason as well, as they now round this next right-hander. But don't count out Freddie Lubin. Right in behind now of Oliver Goethe. Simonazzi running off very, very wide there too. Not ideal at all. Bear in mind, he has got Benjamin Berta in behind him too. But Lomko still holding on to that advantage, keeping Goethe in behind. As now watching these cars go nose to tail right through the circuit of Hungaroring. Still Lomko on top.
Benjamin Berta running wide there at turn 12, but continues on. No harm, no foul. And Oliver Goethe all over the back of Vladislav Lomko already. Lots of slipstream to be had here on the main straight into the tight first corner. Surely he's not close enough for a move. Well, Lomko thought he had to go defensive anyway, and does so. Moving and shaking further back as Alex Garcia goes around the outside of Ayrton Simmons. They almost touch, but they managed to avoid doing so. Goethe with the nose ahead. Is he going to go all the way around the outside at turn 2? He's already tried it once. Oh, very close stuff between Lomko and Goethe. And Vladislav Lomko holds on to the lead for the time being. But Oliver Goethe all over the back of the gearbox of that number 69 car. Tries to get up the inside, isn't going to make it work at turn 4. Fabulous driving from Oliver Goethe, and it should be said, Vladislav Lomko, the qualifying result, the pole position, anything but a fluke. He's been strong all weekend here at the Hungaroring. He took both free practices on Friday, fastest in both free practices, fastest in quali. He leads the race. This circuit seems to suit him perfectly.
Yeah, Alex Garcia moving ahead of Ayrton Simmons for that 6th place as well, so he's making a little bit of progress. The Mexican obviously coming off the back of Spa, where he was disappointed to find himself in the wall on that occasion. He looked so promising, certainly at that point in the race, but it wasn't to be. After that excellent, superb defensive drive, he's now moved himself ahead of Ayrton Simmons. But certainly Lomco, again, excellent defensive work, keeping Ollie Goethe in behind. That's exactly what he needs to do. Hold on to that advantage. Goethe, though, will be rampant. He'll be coming right back at him, and as they round the final corner at turn 14, this is where Goethe will have a chance, certainly on an open circuit, this open part of track, plenty of width. You can see Mansell as well in 4th place, trying to gain on Freddie Lubin, as we're now seeing once again Goethe going hunting this time on Vladislav Lomco, moves to the inside to defend the move here from Ollie Goethe. The Great Dane goes round the outside now, side by side between the pair. They head down through towards turn 2 as Lomco got enough in the tack to hold on to P1. Inside line for Goethe, the advantage on his side. He's in front, he leads here at Hungary now, here in lap 16. Second lap, should I say, 16 laps to go. It certainly is going to be Ollie Goethe. He's on top.
So Oliver Goethe has managed to get himself through into the lead of the race in the Rofco livery Team Motor Park number 96 car, a position we're very familiar with seeing the car in. Vladislav Lomco, though, has a great car underneath him. He's really confident in the setup they put together for the Hungaroring this weekend. Higher downforce circuit than Spa, of course, and he seems to like the car, so don't rule him out. He's going to be challenging Ollie all the way. Great move around the outside of turn 1 by Goethe. Side by side into turn 2. The inside line for the second corner, ran it out nice and wide, kind of compromised the run of Lomco heading toward turn 3. And the position was made, albeit with a little bit of oversteer, biting Ollie as they tried to go through turn 4.
Yeah, very unstable through that turn 4, very, very fast section, and very easy to run wide as well. You've got to be very much on your toes. You know, watching Josh Mason trying to move on Christian Mansell. In behind as well, you've also got Alex Garcia, who has actually made a little bit of headway too. He's got a little bit of pace here, the Mexican, certainly after overtaking that of Ayrton Simmons earlier on. He's only 3/10 in behind Josh Mason, and has a little look as well, just sort of showing in the mirrors, just sort of giving Josh Mason something to think about heading in towards turn 1. Of course, Mansell will surely be encouraging that of Garcia to maybe attack Josh Mason, just to keep him from attacking him at this point as they come around turn 3 and after turn 2. And as they do so, still very much the same right now. Goethe on top. He's managed to extend the gap slightly. 7/10 is all that separates him and Lomco, and it's now been pushed out to 9/10 now as they venture into sector 2. But Lubin as well in 3rd place. He's dropped off a bit. 1.4 now that stands, and Mansell's going to be putting the work in to try and rein that gap in.
Indeed he will. We just got a look there at Ayrton Simmons returning to the category for the first time since 2020 at the wheel of a DriveX car. Obviously the Flower 320, in that case with the HWA motor under the, well, not the bonnet, but under the canopy, as it were. And there is that number 12 car. It is an all-new lineup for DriveX this weekend, because they also have local boy Benjamin Berta at the wheel of the car. Berta making his first outing at this level and is running well there in 9th place. He's run up through Central European Formula competition, where there's often a mix of kind of young stars and gentleman drivers, and now he's up against some of the top junior single-seater drivers out there, and he's holding his own, in fairness, as we see Oliver Goethe leading the way at the moment. Goethe has had a stranglehold on this season so far. We thought maybe his grip had been broken coming out of qualifying with just a mere 3rd on the grid going into this race. However, he has got through, and he's now building the gap on Vladislav Lomco. Now, is Lomco maybe trying to preserve the tyres, going for an attack later on? We'll have to wait and see, but certainly I don't think this victory is going to come easy to Goethe. Vladislav Lomco isn't going to let this opportunity pass if he can help it. And as for Freddie Lubin, he is going to be extremely eager to hold on to that podium. Christian Mansell has dropped off him a little bit on the last couple of laps. Mansell, of course, needs the points. He needs to be outscoring Oliver Goethe at this point. The gap between Goethe and Mansell keeps growing, and that does not do Christian any favours in the championship.
No, Oliver Goethe currently sat on 251 points. Christian Mansell, 183 as things stand. Lonko, who is in second place, has been in the mix with Goethe and, of course, Mansell as well. It's been pretty much the case that you tend to see them fighting in the first, second and third positions in most races this season, but nevertheless we've got a twist in the tail with Freddie Lubin in third place after a wonderful stormer of a session in qualifying. Managed to get himself into second, as we alluded to, obviously front row of the grid alongside Oliver, on the side there of certainly the man in second place, Vladislav Lonko, so not a bad job at all, as we're now watching Simonazzi move ahead of Ayrton Simmons now. So Simonazzi has managed to gain, he's up into 7th place, Simmons now in 8th, so not bad at all from Simonazzi, very much coming into his own, I think, here at Hungary. One of the best performances we've certainly seen this weekend.
And we can't understate the challenge for Ayrton Simmons this weekend to kind of jump back into the car cold. He hasn't gone racing since, I think, March or so in Bahrain. And it's been a long time since he's been behind the wheel of a race car in racing conditions. It's also his first time within the DriveX operation, so he's got a lot to learn and a lot to kind of do in one fell swoop here. So we certainly were impressed by the fact that Simmons got himself up into the competitive order in the qualifying, but perhaps the setup isn't quite there for the race pace just yet. It's a more nuanced thing, putting a setup together that will go quickly across a race distance compared to doing it for just one lap. You can have one amazing lap where the driver catches every slide and aces every apex, but you don't want to be doing that over the course of 35 minutes, and some drivers do find themselves fighting the car as the race goes on. Certainly Christian Mansell has been struggling a bit with balance issues. He's been pretty open about that. However, will be looking to try and get this podium and get some points on the board. He's got Freddie Lubin to try and beat. Alex Garcia, how he would love to hold on to this 6th place, because of course 6th place in this one would be pole for race 2 tomorrow morning, and that would give him a great opportunity to maybe even claim the top step for his inaugural podium in Euroformula Open. Slow-mo of Ollie Goethe, laser focused on his driving. He was telling me earlier on he makes quite liberal use of the headrests either side of him in the car, not because his neck isn't strong enough, but he's just always done it instinctively, which is very interesting. You often see him just leaning his head against the side of the car in the corners, and that certainly suits him. And well, the results are paying off, aren't they, this year? The results prove his methods are more than correct. Alex Garcia under pressure then from Francesco Simonazzi, who seems to be on a bit of a roll at the moment.
Yeah, he's starting to make some moves again, looking into the mirrors of Alex Garcia for that 6th place. Seems intent on trying to usurp that of the Mexican as they head out of the chicane and head down towards turn 8. As they now round it, they'll then be making their way through turn 9. The car getting chucked right out wide. There you can see further up Josh Mason getting right in amongst it into that curvage, as well as they now round the next right now. Simonazzi plugged right into the back of Garcia as they now make their way down towards through this straight, down towards turn 12. They've only got 2 corners to take after this one, and then it'll be 11 laps remaining. And speaking of 11, that's the number that Goethe is looking to rank up in podiums this weekend. Certainly, the man himself has certainly been whittling them together this season. We've seen lots of them, but Simonazzi looking to get a number now on Garcia himself for that vital 6th place that will give him yet another front row visit. Of course, he had one before once. He'll be looking for another, that's for sure. He now makes his way down the straight. Has Garcia got enough in the tank to keep back the force of the BBM car? So head down towards turn 1. He has indeed. Not enough for Simonazzi to make that move.
Of course, do you remember the famous and insightful words Simonazzi gave us yesterday in the paddock about his driving preferences?
I did remember. We went through quite a few things. We discussed setups.
Yes, well, we discussed setups, and then he gave us the infamous line, "I want to go fast."
Oh,
and
yes.
He is going fast at the moment. Currently challenging for that 6th position on Alex Garcia. There's Vladislav Lonko. Gap isn't quite out to 2 seconds yet, but Goethe looks to be going quicker at this stage. He's gaining a couple of tenths per lap at the moment, although Lonko's previous lap was his fastest of the race to this point. So Lomko not out of the hunt yet, and Simonazzi pressuring the back here of Alex Garcia. This is, of course, not only for 6th overall, but also 2nd within the rookie standings. Also, Vladislav Lomko 2nd overall and 1st of the rookies. You see the red R's on the side of your screen alongside the driver numbers, denoting those who are entered into the rookie class. But bad news for BBM Racing and for Francesco Simonazzi. A 2-second time penalty is to be added after the race for forcing car number 12, that's Ayrton Simmons, off the track. So Simonazzi, even if he does get past Garcia, he's then going to have to build himself a cushion.
Yeah, he will indeed. That's going to use, well, certainly put an end to any chance he has of 6, should he not break away in terms of 2 seconds. That's going to be devastating for Simonazzi, who is still trying to find his way through on Alex Garcia. Here we have a little replay slow-mo shot. That is, of course, Freddie Lubin coming through that particular chicane. Slide in the rear slightly as well. Lovely to see, certainly here at Hungary, as now we're seeing Christian Mansell in 4th as well. It was dropped back again from Freddie Lubin. Lubin's done well in terms of the time, 2.5 seconds is where it stands right now. So Lubin building himself a little nest egg in 3rd place, as now we're seeing Goethe flick the rear again before he then ventures down towards the chicane out of turn 5. Makes his way through turn 6 and 7, still leads now with a 2.6 gap to Vladislav Lomko, who still is putting on a well-worthy display and will, if it stays like this, take another winning rookie race.
I just wonder whether or not Lomko made a bit of a mistake on that previous lap, because he was half a second off the lap he'd set on lap 8. Lap 7 he set a 36.3. Lap 8 he was on the 36.8. So I just wonder if maybe there was a snap of oversteer, if there was some kind of issue for him on that previous lap. But the gap is now going out significantly, actually. Lomko continues to fall back. It's now out to 3 seconds over Goethe, or in favour of Goethe, I should say. And Lomko, I think, maybe just having to start fighting the car more than he would like. And, Ayrton Simmons, lucky to keep that in a straight line there. And then it's always tricky at the next corner, of course, because you've got dirty tyres on the rear axle. And it's one thing if it's on the front axle, it just understeers. But if it's on the rear axle, you could be sent spinning. No such issues for Oliver Goethe, though. The poise of both driver and car has been exemplary all season long. Goethe and that machine seem to be at one, and Goethe continues to build the lead at the moment. It was out to 3.3 seconds as they cross the start-finish line. Yeah,
and a fastest lap to boot as well on his last run, so not bad at all. He's managed to notch together another 2/10 upon Vladislav Lomko, increasing the deficit. 136.103 was what Goethe managed to set. Then again, he's starting to spring it out some more. Another 1/10 of a second applied upon Lomko at this point since we last checked. Lubin still in 3rd, 3.6 behind Lomko. Mansell in behind with 1.9. That's all that separates at this point.
And Mansell is starting to wind up the pace at the moment. Personal best lap last time, already a personal best first sector on this lap. So maybe just starting to close in on Lubin. Of course, the closer you get, the more effect the aero has on your turn-in. Simonazzi there scrapping with the wheel as they go through turn 6 and 7. And taking a fair hunk of curb, isn't he, as he continues to fight to catch Alex Garcia here. Garcia ran it a bit wide there. That could be the opportunity for Simonazzi. Simonazzi around the outside at turn 13. Garcia holds on for now. Simonazzi cuts to the inside to try and get a better run out of the corner and dives to the inside there. Tried to go for it, but just about holding on is Alex Garcia. However, that was a chink in the armour that Francesco Simonazzi just spotted, and now he's going to apply more pressure.
He certainly is trying to gain on Alex Garcia by the moment. This long straight, if he can get in the slipstream, will certainly be very, very useful. Looks to the inside, goes to the move in towards turn 1. The Italian still finds it. He can't find it. Garcia holding on to 6 right now. The Mexican doing enough to keep the Italian in behind. He just keeps on trying and trying and trying. Garcia made that crucial error, but it wasn't enough for Simonazzi to capitalise at this point as they head around turn 2 into turn 3.
Car 24, that's Alex Garcia, given track limit warning at turn 11. Now, a warning isn't a penalty. However, it does mean that if you keep doing what you're doing, a penalty may follow. So Garcia needs to mind his P's and Q's at turn 11, the last corner of the second sector, before we go into the final part of the lap. And Garcia clearly pushing on here, trying to hold off Simonazzi, but he needs to do so within the track limits. And look at Simonazzi go. He really is pressing. You can see it in the way he is fighting the car through some of the slower corners. Again, right in the wheel tracks of Garcia. They can follow each other quite closely in these Euroformula machines. And Simonazzi, is he close enough for a move at T12? He certainly doesn't think so. Stays on the racing line, doesn't make the dive, and this time it's him that runs it a bit wide, going out of turn 12. Manages to keep the car on the straight and narrow. Track limits warnings at turn 4 and 11 for Josh Mason. So Josh Mason just being advised to stay off some of the runoff area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Track limit, certainly the story here at Hungary right now. Certainly turn 11 has been a prevalent one that has come up on many an occasion, and also seeing now a couple for turn 4, which is not a surprise because, of course, when you venture uphill, it's a very fast-paced left-hander, very easy to slip over the curve. So, you know, you've got to be very, very careful. At the same time, you don't want to give the position to the person behind you. So obviously, they're going to be trying to defend as best they can. But obviously, if you're trying to maintain the pace, it can land you in trouble. Car 24, that's Alex Garcia, a 2-second time penalty to be added to the race time. So that puts him and Simonazzi on equal grounding pretty much.
Yes, indeed, because both of them have 2-second penalties applied. So, well, they're both now going to need to worry about Simmons, who's behind them, 1.1 seconds back, and also within 2 seconds of Alex Garcia. Ayrton Simmons could be taking 6th place home without even realising it here in this first race. You see that engineer talking away. I think that's Ollie Goethe's engineer, giving him some words of encouragement. You see there what I was talking about, just leans his head on the left of the headrest there going into the corner. He says it's just his instinct, and he also says, well, it's my instinct and I suppose it does preserve my neck muscles as well. Certainly Ollie works very, very hard in the gym and to train himself. He's looking to move up the junior single-seater ladder, and he's really putting on a superb 2022 season and a compelling choice for anyone further up the ladder in 2023, certainly not just because your car will probably end up in the very famous and very eye-catching Gulf colours. Of course, Ollie Goethe's father, Roald Goethe, has the foremost collection of Gulf-coloured racing cars in the world, by quite some margin at that, and that is why both Ollie and brother Benjamin Goethe run around in their Gulf colours, like father, like sons. Simonazzi there, having to really fight his BBM car.
Yeah, really twitching out of turn 2 as well. Just saw the front end just sort of moving a little bit when he rounded the corner. Now heading up towards turn 4. Let's see how he looks heading through here. Not too bad at all. Certainly a good measure at the moment. Heading through now this next one at turn 5. Progressing the car just gently through the curb and then back on the power as they make they make their way in towards the chicane. It's very, very fast-paced chicane, despite what looks might give you. Now head through this next left. And certainly now Garcia is still in 6th. That deficit slowly coming down. It looks like Simonazzi has started to find some, certainly some forward momentum in that middle sector. He certainly looks the more threatening at this point as they head through down towards turn 12. And now you can see there is the delta, and Simonazzi has given up waiting. He's going for it around turn 12. A little bit of contact as they come together, but still, it is Garcia who holds on to to P6 as they head around turn 13, soon to be 14. Simonazzi certainly does smell blood, but he can't find a way through.
Very close fought stuff then between the two of them. We get a replay of the move here. Simonazzi tried it up the inside, and Garcia, I think they may have just avoided each other by millimetres there, or had the lightest touch one way or the other. It was far too close for comfort, and thankfully both cars are still running, and Garcia holds on to that 6th place. Ayrton Simmons watches on, as does Benjamin Berta. Of course, with both of those cars up ahead having 2-second penalties, the DriveX duo could end up profiting.
Yeah, absolutely right, and it will certainly go a long way to his affairs tomorrow. That's how we see the slow-mo of Ollie Goethe there, just at the wheel, keeping the car under intense control. You can just see it there, sliding through the chicane there. Lovely to watch. And another great performance to go with it as well. Currently leads 5 seconds ahead of Vladislav Lomko. And doing very, very well indeed. Though the pace certainly being shown by Ayrton Simmons right now. He's just recorded a personal best in the first sector himself. So really starting to come in. There you can see him right now in behind Simonazi. So you have to wonder whether his engineer has prompted him and sort of said, well, the two cars in front of you, they both got 2 seconds of time penalty, so let's push on. Let's see if we can get a 6th place.
That's probably the objective, isn't it, for DriveX at the moment? They'd love to see their cars up the classification. And certainly, if Simonazi keeps throwing everything and the kitchen sink at Alex Garcia, that will only help their cause. Garcia, though, has put on a sterling defensive drive to this point. Garcia, who was determined coming into this weekend after seeing his podium rather taken away from him there in an instance of contact going down up the Kemmel Straight on the final lap of the 3rd race at Spa. Could have been his first podium in Euroformula Open. He has improved weekend on weekend. Didn't seem to have the strongest qualifying session, though. He's moved up to 6th place to this point in the race. However, Simonazi proving something of a test to the young Mexican racer. We are on lap 15 of 18 here in this race. And for now, Oliver Goethe leads the way. And for now, Oliver Goethe has the fastest lap. It's looking unlikely that anyone is going to be able to protest or indeed counter either of those statements.
Seem to remember that it was only 5 seconds a moment ago, so 1.8, yes. That is absolutely phenomenal. And he managed to pull together a 136.491 on the last lap alone, a 138.188 from Vlad Lomko in that previous lap. Just goes to show the difference that is being made by Oliver Goethe, finding all sorts of time at this point. So also with the fastest lap of the race currently, I'll tell you what, he's looking formidable right now, Adam.
I think that Lomko may have made an error on that previous lap looking at those deltas, but certainly it seems as though the car that was very, very promising in qualifying, the driver that was very promising in qualifying, Vladislav Lomko, hasn't quite found the same kind of race pace as Oliver Goethe, and that might be, no, just a standard replay. I thought for a minute we were going to see maybe a straight lining chicane or something of that nature, but no, Lomko pressing on, although definitely fighting the car in the braking zone heading into turn 6, the first element of that chicane. There's Christian Mansell, who just hasn't quite looked like his usual self this weekend. I think he's missing his standard race engineer this weekend, and for now he's only there in 4th place. However, of course, that will, as it stands, translate to 3rd on the grid for tomorrow's race. At least race number 2, and that could be ever in his favour. And because he qualified 5th today, he would also be on the front row of the grid for race 3. So even though it seems as though Saturday hasn't been the strongest day of the season for Christian Mansell here at the Hungaroring, perhaps he can have a strong Sunday.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. He's got to look ahead and sort of say, what can we get out of the latter couple of races? And you'll definitely be planning with his team, definitely working out what they can do to achieve better than what they already have done. I mean, P4 is not a bad visit considering where he did start, I suppose, but knowing Christian Mansell, a man who is not content unless he's in 1st place. He likes the battle, he likes the fight. Of course, we've witnessed many a great scrap between him and Ollie Goethe this season, and it's certainly something we'd like to see more of, I think, as we can now see Mansell making his way through this next right. He's got Josh Mason in behind, though he does seem to be pulling away from Mason quite a lot, very considerably, in fact. I'll tell you one man who hasn't left the rear of somebody is Simonazi, still right with Alex Garcia right now, still within 4/10 as things stand. Here's a slow-mo replay of Christian Mansell heading through the chicane and looking ever so good in the car as well.
Yes, his new helmet that he's very proud of has been showing off around the circuit this weekend. He's delighted with his new design, and he'll be hoping to carry the new helmet up to the podium in the not-too-distant future. Oliver Goethe's lap times are nothing short of incredible, really. He's just set a purple first sector on lap 17 of the race. Those tyres have been through some stuff already. And his previous lap was a 136.141. His fastest lap of the race is a 136.103. So Goethe continues to put on a masterclass here at the moment, and he could be about to smash his own best lap of the race so far. There is the DriveX pairing, Simmons and then Berta in 8th and 9th place, and Simonazi has again closed up to the back of Alex Garcia. This is, of course, the penultimate lap of the race, so time is running out for Francesco Simonazzi. There you see Alex Garcia's dad there among those watching in the pit box, and a 3-second time penalty has just been added to the race time for Garcia, and that's usually a separate penalty. That would imply a total of 5 seconds. Of course, he already had a 2-second time penalty to be added to his race time anyway, and now it looks like it might have gone out to 5.
Yeah, a bit of a pressure cooker situation, because Simonazzi has been all over him at the same time too, and that's the confirmation on your screens, folks. 3 seconds applied to car 24. That is Alex Garcia. So there we have it.
And so Simonazzi, of course, in 7th place at the moment. He has a 2-second penalty applied to him. So in theory, at the moment, if that was the last lap that we just crossed the line on now, it would actually be Ayrton Simmons finishing 6th, and Ayrton Simmons starting on pole position tomorrow morning, which would be quite the comeback for him over 18 months after he was last in Euroformula Open competition. We'll talk about tomorrow though, because in today's world, Oliver Goethe has been second to no man. Oliver Goethe with a stellar overtake on Vladislav Lomko. A great start from the second row of the grid. He's found himself in the lead again, and as is often the case with Oliver Goethe, once he gets up into the lead, the gap just grows and grows and grows, and that's what we've seen again out of Oliver Goethe in this race. He's been setting mighty lap times all race long, a statement of intent in regards to his race pace and his ability to make a car go the distance at a high speed. Around the final corner comes Oliver Goethe for his 5th consecutive win here at the Hungaroring. A great result for Oliver Goethe in this ever increasingly dominant Euroformula Open campaign. Of Vladislav Lomko taking 2nd place, and Freddie Lubin will be back on the podium for the first time since Estoril. That's a great result for Freddie Lubin. Christian Mansell only in 4th place. He won't be satisfied with not getting to stand on the podium today. Josh Mason with a solid 5th place there, and Francesco Simonazzi is classified 6th by the looks of it. Just waiting for the times to update. No, Ayrton Simmons is classified 6th place by just 9/10 over second, so Ayrton Simmons will have pole position for race 2 tomorrow. Francesco Simonazzi taking 7th place, and there was a little bit of a kerfuffle on the final lap, was there? Simonazzi dived up the inside, and well, both of them ended up off the track, but Simonazzi ended up ahead. I don't think that was the move of a man who was quite aware that he was going to end up ahead of Alex Garcia anyway, in terms with the podium, with the penalties applied. Of course, Simonazzi there running it very, very wide indeed. He'll be hoping that that doesn't warrant a look into from the stewards. Oliver Goethe, though, with another world-class performance. 9.7 seconds, the gap between himself and Vladislav Lomko. Freddie Lubin in 3rd, Mansell and Mason round out your top 5, ahead of the returning Ayrton Simmons. Francesco Simonazzi taking 7th place there, and Benjamin Berta classified 8th ahead of Alex Garcia, who of course had those penalties. Vladimir Netashil across the line to complete the order in 10th position. So another one of those signature Oliver Goethe performances has increased the championship lead even more. Just the one driver within 100 points of Goethe, and that's Christian Mansell. Look at those standings. They tell the story of the season so far. Oliver Goethe with another win here in Hungary. He didn't seem as confident as normal after qualifying today, it must be said. However, he has once again delivered on the form he's shown all year in this race.
Yeah, it definitely has. He's had a wonderful race here today. Certainly the fight from P6 and working hard, and has managed to cultivate yet another win to add to his locker, and makes it 11th podium as well to add to that as well. So it just goes to show how dominant he's been all season long, hence the reason he is where he is in the drivers' standings. And it does so much, not just for his team, but also himself, his confidence levels, and certainly with the races we've got still to come, it puts him in good stead for the championship.
Certainly does. I think the 2021 season was a difficult one for Ollie. He had a knock to his confidence in previous endeavours, but he's come into Euroformula this year. He's really gelled with the Motor Park team. He's really gelled with the Dallara 320 chassis, which is a real driver's car. And, well, he is the driver that is driving the wheels off the thing more so than anyone else in the paddock this year. Oliver Goethe, the dual nationality Danish and German driver, will be celebrating atop the podium once more. I'm sure he'll be greeted at any minute by driver coach Stuart Hall. His dad, Roald Goethe, is also in the paddock this weekend. Got a chance to say hello to him earlier on. And there you go, Stuart Hall, the first to congratulate Ollie on another incredible result. And that man, Freddie Lubin, on the podium again for the first time since Estoril. The most positive day we've seen for Freddie in quite some time.
Yeah, a great visit for Freddie. He fought back and certainly did hold on to that podium place. You know, it was quite risky at the start. Of course, he was trying his best to try and marshal out, you know, some form of a result off Ollie Goethe, try to keep him behind him. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Goethe managed to get ahead, get his nose in front, heading around turn 2. And that, to say the least, the battle with Lomco as well is what led to him eventually ending up in 3rd. But nevertheless, great result for Freddie Lubin, and he can look forward to hopefully some good, more results in the future.
So then let's take a look at the top 3 from this race. Freddie Lubin back on the podium at long last here at the Hungaroring. And that number 78 car, it's been a long time coming for him. Vladislav Lomco on the podium again. He'll be disappointed not to have converted pole into victory, but more points on the board for Lomco as his massively consistent season continues. Oliver Goethe, though, our race winner. And let's hear from Ollie now.
Ollie Goethe, back in P1. It was interesting, this.
Yeah, I mean, the qualifying wasn't the greatest, but which meant I had to really push this race. And the race pace has been really good as usual. The start was pretty good. I managed to get Freddie quite quickly. Then Vlad was battling very hard, so it was quite difficult to pass him, but the pace was there and I got past. And then I was able to make a big gap, and yeah, I'm really happy.
Is it going to be downhill the whole weekend?
I mean,
it's hilly.
No, I think the race pace has been really good. So I think the next few races, obviously with the reverse grid, it's going to be hard to battle through the grids. But yeah, no, I think I'm confident for the next few races.
Well done.
Thank you very
All the best.
So then, highlights. Race 1 of the Hungaroring weekend for Euroformula Open kicks off with a great start for pole sitter Vladislav Lomco, and a great start as well for Ollie Goethe from the second row. Freddie Lubin, though, tried to go all the way around the outside of Goethe and Lomco going into turn 1. However, by the time we got to turn 3, Goethe had gotten through. It was Lomco, though, that led in the early stages of the race. He was determined to hold off Goethe. He was going defensive at every possible opportunity, but that allowed Goethe to power around the outside at turn 1. He held on diligently to the inside for turn 2, and despite the best efforts of Vladislav Lomco, Oliver Goethe would take the lead. Ayrton Simmons a little bit scruffy further back in the DriveX car on his return to the series, but a solid result for him, and Oliver Goethe just continued pounding in the laps, lap after lap after lap, and the checkered flag was his result on this Saturday evening at the Hungaroring. And there you go, the podium celebrations already ongoing. And the Team Moto Park guys delighted with another positive result for their young Dane.
Congratulations.
So there you go, that is the podium for the overall standings, and it is once again Oliver Goethe with the biggest trophy of all. And another full score on the board, including the points for fastest lap. I'm sure he'll be delighted with that one. Just to say, in the postscript as well, Simonazzi gained another penalty, so he's been dropped to 8th place in the standings. Benjamin Berta up to P7. But now it's time to spray the champagne. And so Ollie Goethe and co do with gusto. Vladislav Lonko, actually, rather, I should say Freddie Lubin almost dropped the bottle, but nonetheless, he continues to celebrate with the rest of the podium. What can Ollie Goethe do tomorrow, though? 2 races where he'll be starting further down the order with a reverse grid. Make sure you tune in tomorrow.